Hallo zusammen! Today's video is going to be a little different. As I approach my 10-year teaching anniversary, I thought it would be the perfect time to share how I actually got here. So first of all, thank you so much for clicking on this video and for being interested in my story. To give you the full picture, we'll need to go back a few years. Actually, quite a few years, to where it all started. We'll be traveling through different countries together, and along the way, I'll share some of the ups and downs I've experienced on this journey. I'll also walk you through some of the huge life decisions I had to make that completely changed my path, and I have a feeling that many of you guys will be able to relate to them. So as you know, German is my mother tongue, of course. I was born and raised near Wiesbaden, close to Frankfurt. But my mom's actually from Hong Kong, so Cantonese was also a huge part of my life growing up. Now, to be honest, in the early years, it was more like my mom speaking Cantonese to me and me completely ignoring that part and just answering in German. I understood most of what she was saying, but I didn't really use it. Partly because I felt like I sounded stupid, and partly also because it made me feel different from the other German kids in school. So to all the parents out there trying to raise bilingual kids, I see you and I know it's not easy. I was that stubborn kid who just wouldn't play along. But looking back, the only thing I can tell you now is to stick with it, even if it's hard. Your kid will understand later and be so grateful for your patience and support. So hang in there. Then there was English. In Germany, you normally start learning it in 3rd grade, but I got a head start. I have a lot of relatives who don't speak German, so I had to pick it up earlier. And I think that's when I really realized learning a foreign language is actually really important to communicate with people who don't speak your native tongue. French came next. Also, earlier than expected, my parents were part of a host family program, so we'd always have French kids stay with us for a week or so. And as kids do, we'd play together and I'd picked up random words here and there. Nothing fancy, but enough that when I officially started learning French in 7th grade, it didn't feel intimidating. And that's when things really took off. I did exchanges to Lyon and it was just really awesome. Being able to speak to my exchange partner in their language made everything so much easier. I didn't have to rely on someone else to translate, and I could follow the lessons in school and just felt like I was part of everything so quickly. That independence truly felt amazing. I think those trips were the first time I thought, I might actually be good at this language thing. Maybe I should see where it takes me. Then came the first big almost. My school had a program to spend 6 months abroad in Paris. I applied, went through the entire interview, and in my head, I was already packing my bags. But fortunately, the spot went to another girl who was a little bit older. Maybe that's why they picked her. I was only 14 at the time. But here's the thing. Once I have an idea in my head, I just have to make it happen. The how might change, but the goal stays the same. So if it wasn't Paris, I was still going abroad, and I looked into other options and ended up with something even bigger. 1 year abroad in Chongqing, China. I was 15 when I left. It was my first time so far away from home, and this was way before smartphones, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. If my parents wanted to talk to me, they had to call the landline at my host family's house. And even though MSN was already a thing, I don't know if you remember MSN, that was kind of like a chat platform where you could also video call. I don't really recall actually seeing my parents on video that often because of the time difference, my school schedule, their work schedule, and so on. I actually went through a program called AFS, American Field Service, an exchange program that sends students all over the world to live with host families and go to school. And honestly, that year changed everything. I learned Mandarin up to a conversational level, which was honestly no walk in the park, even though I spoke Cantonese, because trust me, those are 2 completely different languages. But more than that, I learned what it meant to be independent, responsible for myself, and adaptable. At only 15 years old, that was huge. I came back more mature than a lot of my peers and with this deep love for learning languages, because once again, it had just made my life so much easier there. I just felt so integrated and part of the culture. After that year, I even decided that I wanted to study sinology, which is Chinese language and culture, at university. But as it often goes, I was advised against it by a relative. She said, you can't be successful with studying languages as a major. Language is just an add-on and not something you could actually build a career of. And you know, at like 16 or 17, you don't always know what you want to do yet, so I'd listen. And I went a completely different route and did a dual study program in business. And for those who don't know what a dual study program is, it's the setup in Germany where you alternate 3 months of studying with 3 months of working. The best part, you actually get paid even during your study phases. So basically you're getting paid to go to university, which is pretty cool considering that you pay a fortune to study in other countries. Plus you get work experience and the network right from the get-go. So now you might be thinking, okay, but how do you go from studying business to teaching German? Hang in there, my friend. We're taking a little trip to Hong Kong together. During my dual study program, I was working for this huge international company in Germany, and it became so clear to me that I wasn't done with living abroad. There was this pull, this itch that I just couldn't ignore. I wanted to go to Hong Kong, where my mom's from and where part of my roots are. You know how some of you learn German because you have grandparents or relatives in Germany and you just feel like you have to connect with that part of yourself? Yeah, exactly that. Something inside me said, you need to explore this. And you know, once that seed was planted, you know me, I just had to make it happen. So I applied for every possible opportunity within that company where I did the dual study program to get a role in Hong Kong. And honestly, it's not common for someone fresh out of uni, even with, you know, some work experience, to get sent abroad. You're normally still considered a baby in the corporate world. But here is where all those years of languages paid off. I spoke German, English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. And that was my golden ticket. I got the job in Hong Kong. So off I went, packed up my life in Germany and moved to Hong Kong. And let me tell you, if you've never been, put it on your travel list. It's the incredible mix of East and West, skyscrapers and street markets, dim sum and high tea. I absolutely loved living in Hong Kong. So while working there in that corporate job, people started asking me if I could help their kids with learning German on the weekends. So I said, yes, why not? I love children and I love teaching. And watching them make progress, hearing them try out new words and seeing them grow was incredibly fulfilling. It reminded me so much of myself when I was supposed to learn Cantonese as a child, and I deeply related to them. I knew that for most of them, taking the lesson probably wasn't their choice. Their parents had decided for them, so I always did my very best to make our time together as enjoyable as I could while still ensuring we were learning German. Now, here comes the twist. After 2.5 years in that corporate job, combined with the very intense Asian work culture, I realized this life just wasn't for me. And life is funny like that. No matter what I did, it always seemed to bring me back to languages. I was already teaching kids on the side, so one day I thought, why not make this my full-time thing? And you know how it is by now. Once the seed is planted, there is no stopping me. It wasn't easy, of course. Leaving a well-paid job with great benefits is a huge decision. Honestly, with that work experience abroad, doors back in Germany's corporate world would have been wide open for me. But my passion for working in the language education space and helping people learn my mother tongue, German, was just way stronger. So I quit. Everyone thought I was absolutely crazy for walking away from such an opportunity, but sometimes you just have to follow your heart, and I have never regretted it. I got my teaching certificate from the Goethe Institute and eventually expanded to teaching adults as well. I even ran workshops and seminars for German companies in Hong Kong, helping their local staff learn German so teams could work more closely together and feel more connected. And that's when I realized language in the workplace isn't just about communication. It's about forming deep connections with the people you see every single day. It really helps people feel like they belong. So I did that for years, and then, well, you know what happened. COVID hit. Suddenly, in-person classes were impossible, so I shifted to online. And at first it was, simply a way to keep going, but then I realized it opened up a whole new world. I could reach students anywhere, and that was incredibly exciting. It was around that time that Speak Fluent German was born. I decided to focus on helping expats learn German, specifically total beginners, because that's what resonates with me the most. The first steps in learning anything new are usually the hardest and most challenging. And I love a good challenge. I've also noticed that while there is plenty of content for advanced learners out there, those who are just starting out are often overlooked. Eventually, my time in Hong Kong came to an end. The COVID restrictions there lasted for way too long and were incredibly intense. So I moved back to Germany and began fully building out my online program, YouTube channel, and social media presence. And honestly, this is the most fulfilling chapter yet. Helping people feel integrated, confident, and connected in their new home, in my home, means everything to me. When I think back to all the people I met during my time abroad in China, Hong Kong, France, Montreal, I'm so grateful for the role they played in my growth. And now I want to be that person for my students. So often I see myself in them. I know exactly what it feels like to move across the world, try to learn a new language, adapt to a different culture, and deal with all the struggles that come with it. And I also know the incredible transformation that happens when you finally find your voice in a new language. And that's exactly what I help my students do inside the German Fluency Academy. I take them from complete beginner's level, from zero knowledge to feeling confident and conversational in German. And I also know I can offer so much more than just teaching the German language. Having grown up in Germany, knowing the culture inside and out, and having worked in a very traditional yet international German company, I have a strong understanding of workplace culture here as well. And for me, ultimately, it's really about bridging cultures in all areas of life. So yeah, that's how I got here. 10 years of teaching experience, and there is no sign of slowing down. If you got to this point of the video, thank you so much for listening and letting me share my story. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. And now that you know pretty much everything about me, I would love to know a bit about you as well. So comment below. Who are you? Why are you learning German? And what would you love to see more of on this channel? Bonus, if you can tell me in German. I'll be back next week with the usual content, another German lesson for you guys. Das ist alles für heute. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!